Hi, so today we're going to be looking at doing sponge painting. And when we're doing our sponge painting today, we are using 3 different colors. We're using a magenta pink, a white, and a violet color over here. And what I'm going to do is on this entire sheet, I want to sponge paint it. And since my primary color is going to be kind of that reddish pink color, I'm going to dab my sponge in there first. As you can see, that's quite a bit, so I might dab it on my paper a little bit just to make sure it dries off and it's not so goopy. And then over here, I want it to make neat little prints like this. See how there's kind of little pockets in between? So it leaves a little bit of the paper showing. That's what you're going to want to do today. As you run out, you can grab more from your side paper and keep dabbing. Go all the way out to the edges. It's okay if it gets on your table a little bit. We have towels to clean the tables off. One of the things that makes an artist great is their ability to create and be a little messy if they need to, but then to clean everything up once they're finished with a wet towel. And you notice I'm not filling in all of my spaces. I'm just filling in some or most of the spaces because I want this flower to have a texture to it. I want it to be impressionistic like Monet was for his water lilies. And then I'm going to grab a little bit of white and go right on top of some of the pink spaces and some of the spaces that I skipped. And you notice it's going to blend in a little bit as I do this. That's okay. Again, we want that impression that there's some texture in here. Then I'm going to grab just a tiny little bit of purple. I'm even going to dab it off over here a little bit so it's not too much. And then I'm going to add some darker areas to my lily. This is going to be our flower part. I just dab a little bit. I don't want those lines in there quite so strict looking or line looking, so I give them a few extra dabs. There we go. And then my first paper is finished, so I'm going to take it over to the drying rack and let it dry. And as you can see, our next color that we're going to work on is blue for our water. So what I'm going to do is, just like last time we started with the magenta pink, this time I'm going to start with our blue color. I'm using the same sponge. If some of our colors mix a little bit, that's okay. It'll give us an even better undefined look or impressionistic look in our sponge painting. And you notice I don't keep my sponge the same way every time. I kind of turn my hand like this as I'm sponging so that I don't get a pattern. When we're doing impressionistic work, especially in sponge painting, we don't want to get a pattern. We want it to stay very random looking. So I keep turning my sponge a little bit, and if I run out, I grab some more. I dab, dab, dab. Lots of stamping and dabbing, sort of like we did on some of our other projects. All right, so that's pretty covered with blue. Now I'm going to go through, I'm going to grab some purple and add purple into it because our water has some deeper areas where it would be a little darker when you looked at it. So we use a darker hue such as purple. And last but not least, I get a little bit of white on there. And this one might be sort of more like the reflections you see on the top of the water. And I don't want those to be stripy, so I go back in and I do some extra dabs on them so they look more like water ripples than they do lines. There we go. So now I have my water, and this one will go on the drying rack. And then last but most importantly, I have the inside of my flower. This large sheet we're going to divide in half. One half we want it to be a little bit more orange, the other half we want it to be a little bit more yellow. So I'm going to start with my sponge on my orange side over here. I'm going to first do all of my orange. Remember, we want some spaces in between there. Don't get carried away and fill in everything orange. We want some of that yellow to show through. It's an important color. And I can grab a little bit of the yellow, put it on top. It doesn't show up quite as much as the orange, but it shows up a little bit. I'm going to grab some white and add some white spots in there now. Keeping it very random. We don't want any patterns. Kind of splotchy, kind of like that. I think I'm even going to grab a touch of red because we have lots of colors out right now. So that little pinkish red color we were using earlier, magenta, and add a little bit of that in. This is going to be the outer part of the center of our flower, so we want it a little bit darker. And then on this side, we want to keep it yellow, a more yellow tone, so I'm just picking up straight yellow paint. It still has some of the orange left over from before. That's perfectly okay, because you'll notice this is still a lighter orange color than our other side that we did. Pick up a little bit of white. I like to keep that polka dotty type aspect going on in our artwork here. But I want to be careful not to pick up the purple. I'll wipe that off on the edge there a little bit. I picked up some purple on accident. There we go. So now I have one side that's more yellow and one side that is more orange, and that one will go on the drying rack for next class.